one of the things that I notice with better golfers as opposed to more inconsistent golfers is that they have a more sort of heightened awareness of what the club face is doing throughout the golf swing. Now, whenever I'm working with a student, I'll often sort of talk about the problem that they may have in terms of the swing fault and talk about some drills and exercises to get them moving better. But also, I quite like the idea of sort of suggestion-based stuff. You know, so like the questions, like how would you hit it lower? How do you hit a draw? How do you hit a fade? Because what you'll tend to find is when people get into the game quite young, they don't necessarily just sort of try and adopt this perfect technique. You know, the first thing that they tend to do is try, well, the first thing, probably maybe just more my experience, but I remember just trying to wallop it, you know, trying to hit the ball hard, which is why when I walk out that door down the driving range and I see sort of grandparents and parents telling their kids, keep your head still, keep your feet still, and almost just sort of happy with doing this, as if, no. You know, you want to learn how to be athletic, and, you know, you want to learn how to move, and that's a big part of golf. You know, you have to turn on the TV to see how far golfers have always hit it. So there's that part to it, but there's also a skill part to it, which is kind of, you know, this sort of skill acquisition of, you know, getting more awareness, like I said, really, of what that club face is doing. And I think that tends to go unnoticed a little bit more in the amateur game. So what you're going to try and do, and what you're going to take out of this video, is to try and think a little bit more about the club face and your club path relationship. And I think the way that you can do that as a real simple one is to just use the line on the golf ball when you go down the driving range. So let's say that to hit it kind of pretty straight, you'd position the ball like so, as I've sort of demonstrated here. And that would mean that your club face would try and theoretically match up to that point in position when you make contact with the back of the golf ball. And obviously, as long as your club path is pretty good, that's going to lend itself to a pretty straight shot. Now, if we tilted the golf ball, let's go for the one that most golfers tend to struggle with, which is more of a sort of drawing. So for golfers who are pretty typical faders of the golf ball, they'll have over the top tendencies where the hands work too much this way. So you try and do things like drop your arms down. But again, I'm trying to concentrate more on the club face relationship. So I think this drill would work perfectly with the video that I posted the other day where I talk about this box exercise, because as I highlighted on that drill, the box really kind of concentrates your attention on getting a good club path. So just because you get a good club path doesn't mean you get a good club face, which is why I think if you can blend both of these together, you will start to notice a progression in your awareness. So what I've done this time is I've sort of tilted the ball. So depending obviously which side you're looking at it, but it's kind of tilted more towards the left side. Now the reason why I've kind of done that is because I think the feeling really is that as you're sort of coming down, for a golfer who's typically struggling with a draw, the first thing it's going to feel like is that as you start the downswing, your hands are going to be working behind you. Okay, so your hands are going to be working way behind you like so. So it's going to feel like the club head is swinging much more to the right for a right-handed golfer of the target. Now, if you've a history sort of slicer and fader, what you've never really done is introduced any forearm rotation. So the feeling you want to have is higher rate of forearm rotation. And the feeling for that is to almost feel like the club face is closed when you're colliding with the ball. Hence the reason for tilting the ball in that sort of area. Now, you just have to play around with this. Like I said, this isn't like some sort of exact science thing. This is just a bit of skill and a little bit of fun, and, you know, sort of having a bit of a go at trying to do something different as a bit of an exercise. But again, I think it's something that's really important. And then obviously the last one, which, you know, might be beneficial for golfers who are potential hookers of the golf ball, people who sort of tend to stand up too much. Then obviously the feeling for you is, you know, if you're somebody who does this too much, you're going to have to feel like you rotate a little bit better through that golf ball. And you're obviously going to have to feel like the club face is more open. You know, if you're you've got too much, you know, forearm rotation in this sort of way, and you're closing that face down, producing that hook, then you have to feel like that club face stays a little more stable, which is why you can tilt the golf ball this way, because then you can almost get the feeling that you're leading with your hands as you clear that body out of the way. You're almost leaving the face a little bit more open like so. That's what I would propose. Okay, I think it's really worth messing around, doing some of those sort of feelings so that you can get some sort of stock shots in there. And, you know, like I say, it's a skill. So personally speaking, and I'm sure there'll be golfers that can comment on this video as well, they might be the same, where you sort of notice that you start the downswing, you get a little bit sort of fiery, and you get yourself out of sequence, but you can feel your hands doing something to help you recover. You're only ever going to learn that through doing exercises and trying to improve your skill like so. So I personally think it's a really worthwhile exercise, working on ball flight and club face awareness. Anyway, see you soon and let me know how you get on.